From our First Lady Michelle Obama to all the amazing speakers who followed. What an incredible group of leaders we have here today. The story I'm going to tell my grandma is that John Bon Jovi opened for me. Seriously, Target is delighted to support the White House in its United We Serve initiative and be part of this incredible new era of service in America. In this venue, we've assembled some of the most amazing volunteer and service leaders from across the globe. It's truly an extraordinary coalition of great minds. So I encourage all of you to learn, share, and inspire each other over the next 3 days, and take those learnings back to your communities. I'd like to thank our host, Nikki Gorin, Acting CEO at the Corporation for National and Community Service, and my fellow board members from CNCS, as well as Michelle Nunn, CEO of Points of Light Institute and co-founder of Hands On Network, for their leadership in convening us today. I'm grateful to work with such an extraordinary team at Target, including those who are here today. Dana Nelson, Reba Dominski, Bernard Boudreau, Cheryl Thompson, and Mallory Wilcox. Thank you for your year-round commitment to community. I'm delighted to have Tina Shields, Senior Vice President of Target Stores, and other local Target leaders here today as well. They're the wonderful folks down here in the red and khaki and the heart of volunteerism at Target. Hey, guys. I'd also like to thank all of you for joining us from cities large and small, representing all sectors, from veterans of the movement to those new to the cause. Thank you all for your energy, passion, and enthusiasm, and for staying engaged. As leaders in the service movement, we have a great responsibility to take a stand, to lead by example, and to sustain the momentum in good times and in bad. But like anything worth doing, it isn't easy. It takes courage to take a stand. It takes energy and commitment to lead by example, to do the work that others are not willing or able to do. It takes passion and perseverance to sustain it, because this great endeavor is a marathon, not a sprint. Although we've achieved much, we need to support and nurture each other, because we still have a long way to go. The signing of the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act has defined the service movement that's sweeping across our great country. You are the leaders of this movement, the catalysts for change, the organizers who inspire others to make a measurable impact in your communities, neighborhoods, and schools. At Target, we're proud to join you in support of this movement, not only in words, but also in deeds. Our reputation is built on service. Service to our guests, service to our team, and service to our community. Since 1946, we've given 5% of our income and millions of volunteer hours to the communities we serve. Thank you. Today, that equals more than $3 million every week to support education, the arts, social services, and volunteerism. Our volunteers help feed the hungry, quickly respond to disasters, and support education by reading to children, donating books, and renovating libraries in elementary schools nationwide, letting all kids know that reading is important, education is important, and that they are important. Whether you are a student, teacher, or parent, whether you represent business, the nonprofit sector, government, the faith-based community, or serve in the military, whatever badge of honor or courage you wear, we are one nation, united in service. The next chapter in this great American story is unwritten. It's a blank page waiting to be filled by the leaders in this room and by the millions of caring citizens across our country who want something better for themselves, for their children, and for future generations. Now more than ever, it's time to sustain the movement, to innovate, and to continue to serve. Our next guests are service icons. Alan Khazei, the innovative co-founder of City Year, the co-convener of Service Nation, and the CEO of Be the Change. He's joined by one of the most recognized faces in public service. She's a mother, wife, daughter, sister, journalist, public servant, and my friend, Maria Shriver. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alan Khazei and the First Lady of California, Maria Shriver.
Thank you. That was great.
Come out, girlfriend. Oh, this sinks down.
Thank you, Laysha.
Yeah, Laysha, she's great.
She is
Target's
terrific.
Great.
Let's hear it for Target and Laysha Ward.
Hi.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Alan.
This is fun. This is great. I feel like the roles are reversed. I'm asking the questions and listening to your wonderful experience. It's an honor to be sitting here with you. Your family has a great tradition of service, and you have been a tremendous service leader and strategist in this 21st century service movement. People often look to California as the trendsetter. And 5 years ago, you took on service, and now the whole country's following your lead. Look at this gathering that you brought here to California.
This is great. I'm so thrilled that this is the biggest conference on service ever. 4,500 people here. Give it up for yourselves. This is extraordinary. Really.
One of the things that you've done so well is communicated the message of service. So before we get started, we're going to unveil for the first time, anybody seeing it, a new PSA that California under Maria's leadership has developed. So if we could play the PSA, please.
For years, there was this one piece missing. And working as a volunteer, that was the piece of the puzzle that was missing.
It becomes a part of you.
Something would be missing in my life if I didn't volunteer.
It makes you feel better than anything else that you could possibly be doing.
Being a human being is about helping other people.
This is what life is all about.
When I'm doing it, I lose sight of time. I get more back than I actually give.
You just feel so fantastic.
Have to get out and volunteer.
You got to do it now. When can we start?
Get started now. Anybody can volunteer.
It's the power of one person.
It just feels good.
Find out how volunteering can change your life.
You won't believe how good it makes you feel. Visit CaliforniaVolunteers.org and find the perfect way to lend a hand.
Join California Volunteers today. How about you?
Are you ready? Feel good. Do good. Volunteer.
That is just great. That's the latest example of you getting the service message out. I think all of us here feel like we're in a unique moment. Maria, from your experience, how do we seize this moment, and how do we get the service movement to be on a par with, say, the environmental movement, where service is a lifestyle choice that people choose to do every day of the year?
Well, I think everybody here is doing that already. So I think my parents certainly started that message in our home when we were very young. And we were not, Arnold talked a lot about being asked. We were told. And everybody who came into our house was told. He nicely put it that he was asked. But you got a very clear message that if you didn't do it, you weren't coming back. And I think parents, I think that can really begin in all of our homes. I think parents can begin by modeling that and expecting their children at a very young age to be of service, whether it's cleaning up a beach, whether it's, playing with, in an Alzheimer's home, playing the piano, whatever it is, encouraging children at a very young age, and then it becomes part of their culture. I think businesses can really step forward and encourage those who work for them to be of service. They can reward it, honor it, and include it in their culture and in their ethos. I think government can talk about it. Leaders can talk about it, model it, and stress it and make it important. So I think that this is a moment. I think we can very nicely ask, but we should also say we expect it of those who live in this country. We have so many God-given rights here and freedoms, and really say that while we hope you'll accept the invitation, we really do expect it of you.
I think that's great. Well, I can speak for everybody here to say we're glad you were told, because we've all benefited. I'm going to go back and tell my 7-year-old daughter, Maria Shriver tells me it's okay for me to tell you to serve.
Yeah, tell you to serve.
Let's step back. When you first became First Lady, you took on this cause. You stepped in, you saw what needed to be done, and you did something that no other state had done, which is you said service has to be cabinet rank. Right. Why did you push that? Why was that so important? And what's been the impact of that?
Well, I think I knew that if it really stayed in the First Lady's office, it would never be considered really serious. That's the truth. As much as I hate to admit it, I knew that if it wasn't at the governor's table and it wasn't at cabinet level, and if that person wasn't being in the same conversation as the Homeland Security person in education and agriculture and Veterans Affairs, that we would always have second-class ranking. And I think as soon as Karen Baker became the secretary, and it was obviously Arnold that decided to do that, but as soon as she got to the table, everything changed. She got in the room, she got the same voice at the table, and everybody started thinking differently because they understood it was on Arnold's agenda, they understood that she was at an equal playing level, and that she had a crossover with a lot of the work that she was doing. And I think once they realized that it was important to the governor and that it was important to the state, people paid attention in a different way.
That's terrific. Well, thank you for pushing that and recognizing that it needed to go to that level. But in addition to being a leader in the service movement, you've also been a terrific social entrepreneur and social innovator, and we're seeing a lot of linkages now between these two movements. You took the Women's Conference to a whole new level, 20,000 people. It's now the premier gathering for women in this country. People know. You've replicated the We Connect program to more than 20 states. You went to Kiva and said, hey, can you do stuff here in America, and got them to do that. Today you built your 31st playground across the state of California. What have you learned about what it takes to not only do service, but be a social innovator, be a social entrepreneur, that we all can?
Well, I think one of the things I tried to do when I came into this role was approach it as a journalist. Having grown up with two parents who served 24/7, and then I thought, okay, I'm a journalist. There's a lot going on in the Capitol that people don't know about. So if I could approach and take all of these laws that exist to help people that they don't know about, put them all under one roof, use the media to tell that story, partner with the media and all the different forms of media, we can reach a whole new group of people. So I think that one of the things I discovered, certainly in the field of poverty, was that so many of the people in this country who are to benefit, whether it's from a child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, different nonprofits, they don't know that we exist. They don't know that they can apply for automobile insurance, energy saving insurance, the earned income tax credit. They don't know that there are different extraordinary nonprofits that are out there to help them, be it Legal Services for the Poor or any of the organizations that are represented here. And I found that by putting them together, bringing business to the table, government to the table, media to the table, nonprofits to the table, and having them all work together, that the message went out in a different way. And I think in California particularly, and now there are so many different forms of media that are available to everybody in this room. It's no longer do you have to go to the 4 major networks. There are communicators on the ground all around you that the nonprofit world, the service world, can use to spread their message, to reach people that want to be involved with us but don't know that we exist. I think very often people are working in this field and you're talking to one another and you think everybody knows you're there, and then you go out into the Hmong community or you go out into the Latino community and they've never heard of what you're talking about, and that there are different languages in many ways spoken in these different communities, and to communicate with them through the communications that they use.
I think that's right on the money, and I appreciate you brought up the issue of poverty and that you've been leading on that as well. What can the service movement do to really take on that issue, and what can we do as in our country? How do we launch a movement to fight poverty as we have this service movement that's growing and growing?
Well, I think we have to somewhat change the face of poverty. I think, I remember I just executive produced a film on my father called The American Idealist, which really went through a lot of,
It's an extraordinary film. It's going to be shown here tonight for those of you, tomorrow night, for those of you who haven't seen it.
Tomorrow night.
It's extraordinary.
And it talks about and he talks about how he thought he could alleviate poverty and how optimistic he was, and people said he was naive. And obviously he gave, and along with President Johnson, a huge effort to do that. But I think that the face of poverty has changed so dramatically. In the last year, the last 2 years, the last 5 years, and there are a lot of programs that exist to help poor people that they don't know about. And we have found here that what seems to work extremely well is connecting, as I said, all the services and putting them in community centers that already exist. So we work with legal services for the poor, for example, and we partner with Intuit, who's given us millions of dollars to develop a website that we bring computers into legal services, and then we connect them not only to lawyers, but also to the earned income tax credit, to the child tax credit, to state credits, to all these different services so they can do one-stop shopping, so to speak, or one-stop centers, I know, also existing in many places like that. And then we bring in La Opinion, we partnered with them, and they put out 11 million supplements in their communities that are at these neighborhood centers and in churches in different areas to try to spread the word through different mediums. For people who don't have computers, who might not watch television, and we partner with Univision, and we do it in different languages. So constantly trying to think about what haven't we thought of, what message haven't we connected to, and how can we spread it in mediums that we haven't touched and that people are listening to but are not conventional.
So it's a new sort of 21st century approach.
It's I think, kind of journalism, new media meets government, meets nonprofit, meets entrepreneurs, meets business, meets committed volunteers. And one of the things we've learned through the We Connect program is that when we connect poor people, particularly to services, they come back and want to connect other poor people, and they want to be of service because somebody reached out to them, somebody changed their life, and they, in their excitement, they want to then change somebody else's life.
They want to be involved. You kept talking about partnerships, and in the work that you've done, you have built a number of creative and innovative partnerships, whether it's around the Women's Conference, as you mentioned, reaching out to the business community, bringing everybody to the table. What have you learned about what it takes to form effective partnerships and how to think differently? Because a lot of people think it's impossible to make it happen. What advice would you give?
I think everybody in this room probably knows perseverance is just, I think, the number one.
It just doesn't happen automatically.
It just doesn't happen automatically. People often think, oh, well, you can call it, it'll happen automatically. It rarely happens.
Even for Maria Shriver, she has to knock on the door.
I say, people go look at it, I have to say no. I said, that's okay, I'll come back around you the back door. I'll come back around you. Yeah, and I often say to people, it's so much easier for you to say yes because I'm going to become your worst nightmare. So it would be much easier on you to just come with the program now and help me now than just have to deal with me harassing you for this long period.
So you've learned, you're such a great listener and communicator, but the one word you don't hear is no.
Oh, I hear it a lot. I don't pay attention to it, but I hear it.
Take note of that, folks.
I never pay attention to it. And there's so many exciting, you mentioned Kiva, which is the largest online microlending organization, and we just launched with them here domestically. They're here in San Francisco. And I remember going to visit them, it was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and I said, you're doing all this extraordinary work in all of these other countries. Why can't we do this here in America? And, we can match you with our people who want to volunteer. And they said to me, look, we already have about 1,000 cyber volunteers. And I said, what's a cyber volunteer? And they said, we have people who, in the privacy of their own home, volunteer for us at night, translating people's stories, helping people get up online. They do it in the web while you may be sleeping, or do it all over the world, and we connect them to people in need, and they translate their stories, and they connect them to people in their villages. And I was fascinated by the cyber volunteer that's out there, that's volunteering and never comes into an office and is just waiting to be asked to fix some accounting papers, translate some stories, do their work from their home through the computer, and connect people to resources to help change their lives. So I think that's also a fascinating new arena.
Right, there's all different kinds of ways people can serve now.
Exactly.
You talked about technology. You've built a tremendous website here, CaliforniaVolunteers.org. What do you see the role of technology, and how do we really tap into that power for the service movement going forward?
Well, I think Mrs. Obama, and I just want to thank her again for coming here today. Because let's face it, I've built 30 playgrounds, and there was more interest in the playground today when she came than in any of the other playgrounds. Practically nobody showed up at the other playgrounds. I mean, a lot of volunteers did, not a lot of media. But I think, when certainly the President of the United States and the First Lady of the United States say service is important to me, and it's important to my kids, and we're going to do it no matter how busy we are, that sends the most powerful message. And I think when you have, a president that's hip and young and cool and he's serving, you're like, I want some of that. I think that's, or I think you can never underestimate the power of the messenger. John Bon Jovi comes out and says, it's important to me to be of service. And when people that people admire say it's important to me, or when Arnold Schwarzenegger comes forward and says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it as a volunteer, or I'm going to make this an important part of my, governorship, and I'm going to make it a cabinet level position, that sends a message.
Yes.
So I think having these websites, making service simple, rewarding, meaningful. Much of the research we've done has said that people want to connect and volunteer, but they don't often feel they're given rewarding experiences, so they don't come back. So how do we make it rewarding for people so that they come back? So many people, baby boomers, have so many talents, and they want to do more than lick an envelope. They want to tutor. They want to build these playgrounds, build houses. They want to be creative. They want to figure out how to use the web. They want to Twitter about it. They want to spread the message. They want to build a community that changes our message and changes our community for the better. And I think we have to be really open-minded about how we use the mediums that are available to us today. California Volunteers has 45,000 opportunities on it, but we could have 100,000. We have millions of people in this state serving, but we need millions more. We're not reaching into a lot of the communities, are not hearing our message. We need to do better. And even though we have an extraordinary cabinet secretary in Karen Baker, who has done an incredible job, we have to find ways to reach our diverse communities that we haven't figured out yet.
I love the approach you've taken where you turn over every rock. You're looking at every possibility. You're bringing people together from every sector to advance this movement and fight poverty and engage people in service. Unfortunately, we have to wrap this up, so I want to give you a chance. Do you have any parting words of wisdom or a challenge for this audience? And also thank you for taking on the leadership of this gathering and inspiring all of us.
Well,
so parting
thank
words.
You.
Parting words for this audience.
And you have been such a leader and an inspiration to me. And I also, as I say, I want to thank Arnold, who also, put up with my badgering about it. And I think
thank you for doing that.
He has made a huge contribution in this field. But I think it would be really great if everybody from all 50, I think every governor should have a secretary. I think really, and I really believe, I think it's amazing that it's only California and New York. I don't understand that at all. And I think that we should have a goal of, 10 or 15 this year. I mean, actually, I think the goal should be all 50 by the end of the year, but I recognize it's summer and maybe we don't have that much time, but why not set that as our goal and then ask the president to put it up there at the table. And I think, because the world does see it differently when the secretary for service and volunteering is at the governor's table, whoever the governor is. And it's different when they're at the president's table. people just treat you differently. And I think that's a goal that we can have. Every state can have that goal. I think it would make a difference in every state. I think every state should have a volunteer website that they can direct people to, whether it be for an emergency or just for everyday living. And I think we can encourage, many people have said to me, I don't have a talent, and I'll say, do you play the piano? And they're like, well, yeah. I say, well, you can go play a piano in an Alzheimer's home. Can you read a book? They're like, well, yeah, you can go read a book. It's not that complicated. It doesn't have to be every single day. Anything you can give can change someone's life. It really can change someone's life. And no matter where I go, there isn't a day, there probably isn't an hour in my life where someone doesn't come up and talk to me about my father, my mother, my uncle, and it's all, or Arnold, and it's about how a program that they started changed somebody's life. I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I'm a graduate of the Job Corps. I was in Head Start. I'm a legal service lawyer. Somebody reached out and touched me. I'm an AmeriCorps volunteer. I'm a Vista volunteer. I was in Special Olympics. I'm a coach. I'm a volunteer. And it changed my life. And so I think that everybody in this room should take a moment, I hope, over the next 2 days to think about the difference that they are making in someone's life. I think everybody in the nonprofit service world is so down on the ground trying to just survive that you probably never take the moment to think about how you yourself are actually really transforming people's lives. Simply by your work, by the fact that you exist, that you're out there every day working, reaching out, listening, caring, and trying. It changes people's lives in the most fundamental and profound way. And at the end of the day, it is really the only thing that matters in life. And it's not, I think, about all of the success that we all focus on. It's about your effect on another human being. And that's the people in this room. And I think we can never underestimate the power of that. And that your children, I hope that they get a taste of what I've gotten as a child of people who've been dedicated to service. They will come up to your children and say, your mom, your dad, or your uncle, your grandma changed my life. And that's time on this earth well spent.
Well, Maria. Well, Maria, it's clear your energy, your idealism. We are so blessed, all of us in the service movement, to have you as such an extraordinary champion and a strategist and an innovator. And thank you for changing my life and the lives of so many people here and across the state of California and across our country.
Thank
we
you.
deeply appreciate it. Let's hear it from Maria Shriver.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alan.
That was so much fun.
That was fun. Thank you.